What's up? Appreciate you for watching. Had an idea that we sort of organically started kicking around on after further review today, Monday. And I think I talked myself into supporting the idea of the Saints trading for Leonard Fournette. So hear me out, okay? This might be a long way of explaining it, but so the report started over the weekend from Adam Schefter that the Jaguars are interested in trading Leonard Fournette. They're shopping him. So then comes a report on Monday from Josina Anderson at ESPN that the Bucs, who are thought maybe to be a suitor, aren't going to make that deal. So I started thinking, why would anybody trade for a running back? Especially a guy like Fournette, who's 25 years old, coming off a productive year, but you don't know how much longer he's going to play. So you give up compensation in order to get Fournette essentially at $4 million for the 2020 season. But then if you pick up his fifth-year option, that's more than $10 million. And then you still have to sign him to a long-term deal. So why in this age would you sign a running back to a long-term deal? Especially when you have to give up assets to get him. Why not just wait for Jacksonville to cut him? Essentially do what the Rams did with Todd Gurley. Say, well, we signed you this long-term deal. We overpaid. We're going to cut our losses, and then you sign him to a cheap deal like Atlanta did, 1 year, $6 million. And I thought to myself, the reason it would make sense for New England is with a 43-year-old quarterback, they're in a desperate win-now mode. You don't know how much longer Tom Brady's going to play, so you're trying to win a championship like yesterday. So if Leonard Fournette makes you better at a position where you don't have great depth or really a great asset, okay, that kind of makes sense a little bit there for Tampa. And I started thinking, what other teams in the NFL, not even thinking about the Saints, but what other teams in the NFL are in extreme win-now mode that you would not look at the long-term ramifications of giving up an asset or getting doing a bad deal with Fournette financially, that if you win a championship, it doesn't matter. And the only other one I came to was New Orleans. And it really makes sense. So hear me out. Let's say, hypothetically, the Saints trade a third or fourth round pick for Leonard Fournette. And I think that might be adequate compensation. Let's not forget that when the Saints traded Darren Sproles, they got a sixth round pick for Darren Sproles, who was still a really productive back in 2014 when they shipped him to Philly. So I would think for a 25-year-old Leonard Fournette, you should be able to trade a third or fourth round pick for Fournette if Jacksonville is indeed trying to get rid of Leonard. You have him for the 2020 season at $4.1 million. You could pick up his fifth-year option, but that goes north of $10 million, and you're not going to do that, largely because you're probably going to extend Alvin Kamara this offseason. And you could certainly structure that contract to be backloaded so you have a lower cap number in 2020, 2021, early on. The one bigger issue becomes with Latavius Murray. So Latavius Murray, if you cut him, would carry a dead cap figure of around $5.7 million. So if Murray's dead cap number was 5.7 and you're paying Fournette 4.1, it comes out to about $10 million for those two guys. Or you could keep three running backs and have Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, and Leonard Fournette. And if Murray's on the roster, his cap number is about $1 million less than that. It's in $4 and change range. So would you be willing? You're going to have three running backs on your roster anyway. Would you be willing to essentially allocate a third roster spot for a running back like Leonard Fournette and keep Latavius Murray and Alvin Kamara? And I keep coming back to it. And I just know that New Orleans has been at their best when they've been able to run the football. And at times last year, Latavius Murray was that guy, but for the most part, he wasn't the productive back that Mark Ingram had been in this offense, complemented by Alvin Kamara. So if all of a sudden you add a guy like Fournette, who's 25 years old in his physical prime, in great shape, a year ago had his most productive season, only got in the end zone 3 times, but still 1,200 yards and 74 receptions, which certainly is something that New Orleans wants, running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield. And I think to myself, would the Saints benefit from having a back that could run the ball between the tackles like Leonard Fournette and versatile enough to catch it and require less from Alvin Kamara and you just sort of say, we'll figure out financially how this is going to look down the road. If that wins you a championship, I'm good with it. And I would gladly give up a third or fourth round pick to get an asset like Leonard Fournette, even for 1 year, if it meant complementing the offense that's going to help the Saints win a Super Bowl. So that's my argument. I understand that it probably creates an even messier cap situation moving forward. And some might argue that, well, you already don't have a second round pick in this draft. Why would you trade a third or fourth? Well, the point of the draft is to acquire assets to build your roster. Leonard Fournette's helping you build your roster there anyway, at least for this year. And the other part of it, too, is they'll keep giving you more assets as long as you have a team. In the draft, I mean. Like, you could the Saints traded their second round pick this year to move up to get Eric McCoy a year ago. Well, next year, they're going to give you another second round pick, so why not trade next year's second round pick to move up to get a second rounder this year, or so on. My point is, you could play that game of trading future assets in perpetuity because you're always going to get future assets in the NFL. So there it is. There's my crazy idea. I think that the Saints, if they could trade a third or fourth round pick for Leonard Fournette, even if it meant 1 year, because you're not going to pay him on his fifth-year option, and you let him hit free agency after 2020, and maybe you re-sign him. Maybe at that point Latavius Murray walks because his contract number can be voided after year 2. Maybe you do sign Leonard Fournette to a longer-term deal, not a Ezekiel Elliott-type deal, or even what Alvin Kamara is going to get, but some type of extension. I'd entertain it. So let me know your thoughts. Leave comments below, and let's interact. I like it. I say the Saints should trade for Leonard Fournette, provided all they'd have to give up is a middle round pick. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching.